Hello, my friends. Welcome in another drawing session today. And today it's in collaboration with a Brainstorm school. It's a school about concept art, illustration, painting. It's one of the online schools that you can enroll in and take many different classes when it comes to concept art and stuff like that. My name is Rusty and I'm going to be showing you today some stuff about foundation drawing. I teach this class at Brainstorm, so you can ask any questions during this stream if you have any, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. For who is this class? I wanted to mention that. This class is for anyone who wants to learn how to draw. This class is for anyone who wants to pick up the fundamentals when it comes to drawing and work with the fundamentals of drawing when you want to pursue the career in entertainment industry, movies and video game industry. Foundation drawing is absolutely necessary to know and be familiar with if you want to become a concept artist or painter, illustrator, it doesn't matter. Just like a quick thought I always share in my class when it comes to foundations and what it is, right? In order to draw well and design well, you need to know something that's called foundations, or have or be familiar with foundations. So this foundation, when it comes to art, in my opinion, is something we can think about it as skill sets. So one of these skill sets that you can know is like a drawing, right? Foundation drawing, that's basically my class, how to draw, how to sketch, how to draw anything you're looking at, what's form, what's structure, what's perspective. We talk about a little bit about perspective, and then build up that solid foundation skill to take it and take it to a more advanced level and play with stuff like character design and concept art and illustrations and stuff like that. So that's one of the skill set that you can have. Another skill set when it comes to foundations is anatomy. Another one is, I would say, like colors. Definitely be familiar with colors, right? What is color? What is tone? What is value? Cold colors versus warm colors, stuff like that. Composition. I would say definitely composition here. Maybe this too specific, but I want to mention it. And then last one would be definitely perspective. So in order to be very effective in this concept art world, I would say, or be creatively free these days, you should know something about these 4 topics and practice these 4 topics somehow to achieve some professional level, get the professional skill that can be paid for. These 4 skill sets, if you know them, if you are familiar with it, you can take it to a illustration career, concept art career, drawing career, basically anything, you know. The more you know about these topics, the the better, basically. So that's foundations, right? Practice them all the time you can. So today I want to show you very easy, basic stuff. A box. I mean, if you know how to draw a box, it's a big deal. you can draw a box in different perspective, right? There's 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective, 4-point perspective, fish islands, and all the other crazy stuff. Perspective itself is a subject that can be talked about like for many hours. In my class, we briefly touched that topic, but Brainstorm, for example, offers another class is heavily focused on perspective. So it's a class on its own. So basically, when you're constructing a box, I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. When you're constructing or drawing a box, the box needs to have three sides, right? A top plane, side, and another side. So when you want to practice these fundamental drawings or fundamental drawing skill set, you can think about these boxes and just like grab a sketchbook, go anywhere, anytime, and just draw and do the boxes. Try to create them in a space and just think about these three sides. That's a very basic, simple thing that you can do for yourself in order to level up and look at things in a different way. You know, after you will do this drill of drawing boxes every day in your little sketchbook, give it 10 minutes at least a day, I guarantee that everything will make more sense and everything will be much easier to draw, because there will be a moment after drawing many boxes when it will click and you will see box in everything you look at, and that's what we want, you know. So just a stupid, easy, very quick exercise you can literally do anywhere, anytime. It's the most simplest, basic thing you can do for yourself if you want to level up the drawing skill, you know. And they can be, you can play with sizes. And overlap. Overlap is something, basically what I'm doing here. Drawing a box behind another box. You basically hide it, right? Just to like spice it up a little bit. This class runs for 10 weeks. It's online, it's with feedback. So every recommended practice, I don't like to call it a homework, I call it recommended practice. You will be doing recommended practice every week, and you will get feedback every week. So that's definitely one of the biggest advantage you can get when you take live online drawing class. Instead of pre-recorded video lessons, you know, after feedback what to work on, right? How to improve it and where are the mistakes, what to do in order to eliminate the mistakes and not to do them again. I'm just not really thinking about these boxes. To me, it's like automatic because I've been drawing so many boxes in my life. It's just, at this point for me, it's just They can be long, small, medium. In this class, I usually have a group of around 20 people, 10 to 20 people, and there's a private Discord group, and people usually work together and create a very nice friendly environment where they support each other. That's really good. What's happened like last time in a class, which was really good. So they give each other feedback or talk about stuff like what caused them the trouble during this specific week. And they basically support and help each other, which is really nice. So it's not like a dull, cold environment where nothing would be going on, right? You can split the box here, right? Just play with it. This is a warm-up exercises that are highly recommended to do before you start to paint or design or do anything, just to like get that little flow going on in your brain before you start to heavily think about the next thing you want to do, right? Just to wake up your mind, basically. And I'm gonna draw a big, beautiful box here behind all these other boxes. After all, everything you look at can be simply drawn as a box or box structure, right? So that's why this exercise or this drill exercise is so important, right? I will show you an example of what I'm talking about. For example, we have a picture here. Of a fox, for example. So why are we learning how to draw a box? Very important thing to do. When you look at something like this and you want to draw it, in order to understand the structure and volume, very simplified, this is basically what I see when I look at something like this, right? And then maybe we can take it a little further. do slightly modified box. And then guess what? There's another box here. And another one. So this, my friends, is something that we need to see every time, everywhere we draw or trying to understand some perspective and form and structure. This blue line that I'm drawing here, that's called a center line, so that you can think about it as a imaginary line that goes through a form in the middle to help you understand the angle of the box or rotation of the box or primitive form, right? So that's that. Very simplified fox head, for example. The construction. So that's why are we drawing these boxes? Because in order to see this, you need to be familiar with the box, knowing how to draw it. And in order to get this knowledge in your head, it only comes through a drill exercises like this one I'm just doing here, right? Drawing is a skill you can learn. It's exactly the same thing as when you're learning how to walk when you're little, right? You fall and then you get up and then you walk again and you're trying it and learning it, and all of a sudden one day you walk. It's exactly the same thing when you are learning how to cook, you know. Drawing is not about talent. It's a skill that anyone can learn. Now it's becoming a little mess. And that's okay. Because we have some tricks here that we can use. Something that's called a line weight. I will just basically separate this box from the boxes behind it and tell my viewer, you, what is important and what is in front of, what is basically closer to me. You can do it again with this one, for example. This is like a very first visual communication tool we learn in my class. How to separate something or make something more important on the image you're trying to create, right? Oh, let's just do this one. They shouldn't be really touching. That's okay. I don't want to do it everywhere. I want to just do it somewhere because I want to have the contrast in the overall image that I'm trying to create here, or this whole entire sketch, this entire image that I'm trying to create here. I want to have a little bit of a balance. I don't want everything to look same. I want some contrast in order to achieve interesting look, meaning I want some thick lines and thin lines. I don't want to do it everywhere. So pressure is definitely something we can play with or think about when we draw. There's a difference between this pressure, and this pressure, right? And each of these lines have their own role when it comes to drawing. Usually when we construct something, we want to draw lightly with low pressure, right? When we sketch something. Let's just fix this mistake here by drawing another box. Usually people don't want to do this because it's boring, right? They want to move right away to a epic League of Legends illustration. I was exactly like that when I was learning all this stuff. But once I gave it a try and practiced it for a while, everything made much more sense, and I was able to draw everything much quicker, and that's what's it all about. So hopefully you get the idea about boxes. Very simple, easy exercise you can do anywhere, anytime, all at once. And practice. I highly recommend, when you are starting with this exercise, to draw through. So when you have a box, you will construct all the sides. Draw through the back side of it, right? Just to get that understanding in your head of what makes box a box, right? Very helpful. There is really quite a lot of different exercises of how to play and draw a box in different angles, different perspectives. And in this class at Brainstorm, we go over some of them. Hossein, hi, how are you? Welcome. How's your day going? We're just going today over some basic, very basic drill exercises. You can take this exercise or your small little sketchbook and just go out in your favorite coffee store, and just practice it, right? Whenever you have time, or when you're at the boring meeting at work, you can draw, doodle, stuff like this. When you are waiting for something at the doctor's office, for example, you have this small little sketchbook in your pocket. You can just pull out anywhere, anytime, all at once, and practice. This is like a freehand construction drawing, or freehand box drawing. You can also add or basically draw a little more complicated forms that are like part of the box. So we can start with the box and then like carve a more modified form out of it. Start to be a little bit more creative. But that thought there needs to be there first, before you do something like this, of like, what are you actually trying to construct here, right? What sort of like form or shape? I'm good at drawing boxes, but when it comes to relations between them in space, I'm not good at it. Can you show some box exercise like this one you're doing? Yeah, so some exercises that I have been just doing, that's a simple thing that you can play with, right? It's some of the exercises. Also, it really depends like how long you've been drawing, and if you have never been drawing before, and you're just like, oh hell, I don't know, this looks too complicated and stuff. Do start with a simple thing as a 1-point perspective, right? So you draw a line, horizon line. Basically, you know what, let's just not talk about this mumbo jumbo. You draw a line, you draw a dot, only one, and then you draw squares and rectangles. Maybe like 3, like this. They can be all sizes. Once you do this, then you try to connect this dot to each corner of this box. Like this. Once you have it, we know that every box needs to have the sides, right? So then you can just simply find the sides within those blue lines that you have just drawn, right? So I can go and create a sides here or here. Depends on how big of the box I want to draw. This is just like very basic, very easy exercise you can start with. Once you do this, and I'll be honest with you, multiple times, 100 times, 1,000 times, then you can you will develop that understanding of, oh, okay, 1-point perspective box, okay, I can move on. And then you can do 2-point perspective. You draw a line. This time you're gonna draw 2 dots. And between these 2 dots, only between these 2 dots, you can start drawing lines like this, right? And then from the point, each of these little dots you'd have drawn, you can draw lines towards that vertical line on both sides, towards the both dots, basically. We're just playing here with the dots and the lines. Now we're gonna create sides of the box. Voila, we have 2-point perspective, boxes in 2-point perspective. You always try to find the sides of the box. Basically, does it, like, ask yourself all the time you do this exercise, does it look like a box? No, yes. If no, what is it missing? Is there all sides? Is it... People have a tendency when they start with this drawing or this exercise, they do something like this. They build up everything and then they do something like this. The side of the box is distorted, or it's like not placed correctly in the perspective. That's because it goes off, like out of the within these 2 dots, basically. Everything needs to be kind of aligned. It is like when you're starting with this exercise a little overwhelming. It's like, oh no, I don't know what to do. Like, it's just so crazy. And then once you like watch the recording or try like step by step, just mimicking what I do, then you do it on your own, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and you still do not know how to draw a box, then it's completely fine. If you do it 10 times, then it starts to click in your head, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where I'm making mistake now. Finally, this box, one of them, looks like a box. And that's these little tiny little progresses that you're doing on your journey, on your way. It means that you're learning something, you know. Mistakes are part of learning process. It's completely fine and completely normal. My class is not about making a pretty drawings. It's about growing up and level up, you know. And in order to grow up and get better in drawing or design and concept art and illustration, I don't know what else, you need to make mistakes, right? And you need to be aware of those mistakes. And the best thing you can do when you learn is to have a instructor or a mentor or someone who gives you the feedback and tells you, here are the mistakes, here how you can fix them. Then you go and you fix them, right? And you redraw them, you're being aware of those mistakes, and you get better and you grow. It's easy. Everyone makes mistakes. I still make mistakes. I mean, I'm not a master of the drawing. I am a hungry student, and I hope I will stay as a hungry student for the rest of my life, because drawing and art is constant learning process, you know. It's a play. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't hide them. They're valuable. I'm not a beginner, okay, but I got the importance of boxes, okay? Open the world. Most of my professional career, I drew characters. That's why I should learn to draw environments. It depends, like, on your goal, right? You want to be a concept artist. You want to be, you want to take a little bit of more specific direction in concept art, then you can focus on environments or characters. Or if you want to be a generalist, there's studios and projects that requires people who know how to draw and design characters, environments, props, all that kinds of stuff with the different techniques, like photo bashing, or, you know, just the traditional way or approach. It really depends on who you are, what you want, what studio you work for, or what project that you work for on, right? So all depends. Hey, is it hard to stream traditional drawing camera above? Yes, it is. You kind of have to have a little specific setup for that, and to be honest, I would like to do that more, but it's a little tough for me to set it up. You know, so I definitely have a plan to do it in the future, more traditional drawing, but I need to set up the above head camera and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. Hossein, I would like recommend, I don't know if I kind of answered your question, or I don't know if it was a question. Like, basically you were asking, or you said you had a trouble with drawing a boxes like in a space. Relations between them in a space. I don't exactly know what do you mean by that, if you want to be more specific, but that's a little bit of an exercise of freehand drawing boxes. Different angles, different perspectives, and just kind of try to build them in space like this. Is that something you meant? And there are, of course, different angles, different vanishing points. different sizes. Just thinking about this very basic perspective rule that everything that's closer to me is bigger, everything that's further away from me is smaller and smaller and smaller till it disappears, right? That's how you can give it a depth. My mom and dad always say, no, we can draw. We can only draw a stick figure here. I'm thinking, well, then you know how to draw anything. I need like some kind of stand above my head. Yeah, I think there's like specific setups for that, you know. There's different ways of how to solve that, drawing from like on a traditional paper, or maybe, yeah. Do you want to do it? Yes, spatial exercise random. There's people call it different names, but something like this definitely helps with it, you know. And of course, all of this is like a freehand. I call it freehand box space exercise, and that's all related to these exercises. In order to do this well or understand it well, you cannot just jump into this exercise like right away, right? Because you don't know how to create a box, especially if you haven't been drawing it before. People have these tendencies to, oh, this looks so cool, I want to try it right away. But first of all, this needs to be there, right? If you know it, if you are familiar with it, then try something a little bit more complicated like this. And then maybe something a little bit more complicated like this. Or another sort of like a spatial awareness drawing box can be simple stuff like this box, maybe, and then you can just kind of try to split it. And think about, what is actually happening here if I want to overlap these boxes? See. And then maybe you can redraw it, but this time a little more freehand. Same sort of concept. Right? And then maybe, if we already have touched this topic of overlapping forms, because that's what's called overlap, when there's something in front of another thing, then maybe we can freehand and draw a box here, but different angle, rotate it. Overall, I would say try some of these exercises. If it feels almost impossible to do, then it means you need to go a little back and do slightly easier exercise. Like this one, right? And then more you will do this one, then you can go back and try this one again, and then it will start to make more sense, right? What animal gives just a pure joy every time you draw it for me. It's the bird as well. I know you mentioned it on Instagram. Yeah, definitely. You're welcome, Hossein. Let me know if you have more questions. You know, all this stuff goes to then how you can apply it to your own drawings or concepts and stuff, and you don't really have to spend that much time of like fixing the mistakes when you have this knowledge of drawing a box in a space. And drawing from imagination, for example, is a big deal when it comes to this stuff, right? So basically, the more you know, the more you're free when you want to draw and create something on a paper. We can draw an animal here, why not? We can draw a hippo. Just do a little quick demo. Favorite animal to draw? I like to draw them all, to be honest. I don't really have well, I would say maybe a heron. I'd like to draw, for some reason, I don't even know why. I like to enjoy to draw herons. I can draw a heron from imagination like very easily, because I'm familiar with it. When I draw a hippo here from the reference, there's a multiple different ways of how to do it. I try to see some sort of like a gesture first, or direction, angles, shapes, proportions, definitely. Also, I want to like keep it simple, and like when I draw, I put a low pressure on the pen or stylus, depends if I draw digitally or traditionally. So I don't want to definitely make these marks like right away, right? Because that's like hard to fix and draw over it, right? People have tendencies to do it. So I want to keep it simple and, you know, gestural, maybe some shapes. I can notice by looking at this hippo that the head here is like super big, right? It's like some sort of like a proportions that I'm trying to read here. What is actually a big form here or big shape? There's multiple different ways. This is more approach of like what painters do. They try to see everything in shapes. Pretty long. And I never want to represent or copy, basically recreate a drawing one-to-one to my reference picture, right? Like, that's like a big thing when I tell my students to not to be a slave to the reference. It's like such a big relief for them, because they always had this thinking of, oh, I need to create it 100% accurate of what it is. I do not put that much emphasis on it when I teach stuff. I still would like to see some sort of proportions in the drawing, right? Like what's biggest form here, what's small forms, what's medium size shapes and stuff. Like basically, like the whole point here is to create believable drawing, right? So maybe something like this is a first initial sketch. I'm pretty happy with the proportions here. It's not 1-to-1, 100%, but I don't want to think about it like that. Because in the moment that I'm starting to think about like, oh no, I have like these nostrils here are not accurate in a direction or proportions to the eye and stuff, it's just going to be a mess and you'll burn down like really quickly. And I don't want that for anyone. You will throw yourself out of the window. Now I want to see some form. So this is the face that I'm start to building up these blocks, putting in a use this exercise of with the boxes, right? Basically when I'm looking at it right now, I see boxes everywhere. The big advantage of this low pressure drawing is that once I am happy with the line work here and proportions and construction, then I can go over and just put the emphasis on some of these lines, give it a line weight feel, and commit to the lines that I want to pronounce more, basically reinforce them, right? So it feels like it's a actual drawing, constructional drawing, that's a drawing that has been done through multiple steps, right? Observation, understanding, communication, all that kind of stuff. I have tendency also to, when I draw something quite new to me, that I have been doing quite a lot recently in my drawings, is to combine sort of like a straight curves and basically lines and curves. Here I want to modify this a little bit. It's like a sculpting, basically, you know. And these little overlapping forms here, that's going to be something that I want to definitely catch. Now, when I'm quite happy with it, maybe another step that I want to do is to find the shapes in light and shadow. A little bit more information here, what's going on with that skin. Now I'm starting to slowly stylize the drawing, basically. Oh, strong perspective needs a lot of planning and guidelines. Well, you can always, when you work digitally, have that perspective grid, right? That helps. I cannot like knock out a complete environment drawing. I can show you something here maybe. Like I have this piece here. I didn't do this either freehand. I had very basic blocks from Blender, you know, and these sketches, all of them had some sort of like a perspective grid. I cannot do something like this like freehand either. So it depends on what you do, you know. I can confidently draw some sort of like quick ideas and sketches for environments and using these boxes and the knowledge that I have. But if I would have to create some sort of more polished fine piece, I would definitely need assistance and help of some sort of guide, right? Or simple block out from the Blender. So this could be very quick, sort of like drawing here. If I want to study some sort of like a form here or try to practice the form, maybe I can throw in some sort of contour lines, right? Like to just practice that form, understanding of it. Like, so maybe just to try to find them, see them. More about the contour lines, maybe in next live drawing stream here on YouTube. I'm just gonna stylize it here a little bit. Oops. Now I'm just gonna play with the drawing. When I do stuff like this, I want to think about readability, clean lines. I want it to make sense. I want the viewer to instantly recognize what what they're looking at, right? So yeah. This is more what I'm doing here now, like a stylized drawing. And there's multiple different ways of how to wrap up that drawing or that sketch so it looks visually appealing, visually interesting, you know. It can be shapes, hatching, no hatching, filling out the shapes with like ink, some dark spots, bright spots, blank spots, you know. Somewhere, everywhere, balance, and it's a little bit more stuff to talk about and understand. I also try to, like when I do this stuff, this is sort of like a final step. I like to design or come up with my own shapes, basically. So it imprints my own mark on it, if it makes sense. But this step cannot be done unless that constructional drawing is there first. Basically the fundamental exercise, the fundamental understanding of the form of and the proportions and stuff like that, right? Maybe that's too much. So it's a combination of everything here. It's not like just, oh, I see hippo, I'm gonna draw hippo. I want to reinforce some of these lines, basically applying this exercise we talked about. I want that focal point or that area on this drawing, the part of the drawing of this hippo, I want my viewer to pay attention to the head, right? So that's where I'm gonna put some line weight in and contrast. Basically, I will say what's more important to look at. This is like that style of the drawing is a little bit of more graphical, and that's also the final step. Really depends on who you are and what you like. I have tendency to lean more towards the graphical shapes and graphical rendering, if it makes sense, rather than realistic rendering. Basically, also find a little bit of my own invention, put a little bit of myself in it. That's the whole point. Drawing is a perception of a reality. We never shouldn't be a point. Point of drawing should never be like a recreate the reality, right? One to one. I mean, people do it, hyper realistic drawing, blah blah blah. But and it's fine, you know. If it makes you happy, go ahead. It's completely fine. But in this class at Brainstorm, we learn how to draw the fundamentals, understand the fundamentals, and also how to be free, think creatively free, how to use a reference, actually use the reference, not to copy the reference. So it's definitely great for anyone, not only for concept artists or people who want to take a career in a entertainment industry, but also for someone who just wants to learn the fundamentals and use them in a creative way, you know. Hopefully it makes sense. this may be too much. Yeah, I just want to leave some eye rest area here as well. How do you pick where to hatch? I feel like I always overdo it. Well, first of all, when you want to hatch, you of course you know Brainstorm School. I found you by accident. Oh, great! Happy accidents, right? I have an Instagram, yes. It's Rusty Draw. You can find me there. It's like this. How do you pick where to hatch? First of all, good thing to know is to like, where do you want that area on your drawing? Where do you want your viewer to look at? That can really make the whole thing easier for you to render. Like, do you want to render everywhere, you know, and then like spend a lot of time to render every fold here? No, you probably don't want to do it, right? I believe, my opinion, my experience is to create some sort of like a dynamic, interesting visuals, basically. So when you have something that's like rendered and there's like a lot of details going on here, right, versus you have something that's blank, it creates an interesting balance, right? It's like dark and light, rendered, over-rendered, not rendered, too much details, not details, right? If you do every detail everywhere, it's going to be too much, right? So in my case, what's going on in my head is like, where's this important part of this drawing I want to render? What's interesting to me, which in this case is the head. Okay, and then I try to see these shapes here, right? Like, then I start to think like a painter a little bit. Okay, here's the shape, right? Here's the shape. Here's the shape. And then I hatch these shapes, but I hatch them in the direction of the form, right? In the direction of the contour lines, basically. And I do it only somewhere, not everywhere. So also a lot of it comes to the experience and feeling that I have developed over the years. What's too much, what's not enough, you know. There are some exercises actually for you to find out like, how much of the rendering is too much, how much of the rendering is not enough, and stuff like that, right? So yeah, it's all that. But I always pick where to hatch, usually around the head. But there's interesting examples. Like, for example, when I was drawing a firefly, I hatched it here. I hatched it around that abdomen part, right? Because firefly, more interesting part of the firefly is actually abdomen, where all the luminescence stuff going on, right? So that's what I wanted to say by this drawing. Here, this part. So it depends. maybe I can throw in some long lines here. For example, I have quite detailed area here, not as much detail here. I think I can even go a little back with it. That's better. And now maybe this shadow here, I also want to have a little bit more rendered. So it will create that illusion of detail and not detailed area. So it will create a nice balance, right? So it's like detail, no detail, detail. Makes sense? So it's like a dancing, basically. I don't want to have a detail, 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 right? And where I don't want to have a detail, maybe I can just indicate. Just to whisper what is going on with the form or shape or stuff like that. A lot of it is really like an experience. What works, what doesn't, a lot of mistakes, a lot of too much rendering, you know. That's how you find what is visually pleasing to you, basically. I want to put a little bit of more contrast maybe here around the eye. And when you start to have that feeling in your gut of, oh no, I think that's about it. Or something like, I think I'm starting to hurt that drawing, painting, concept art, design. Then that's the right time to drop the pen and move on. You know? Ta-da! Also, it's good to have a break and have a coffee and then come back and see it with the fresh eyes. Of course, you're welcome. I don't really care about this part of the image because I wanted to really put an emphasis here on this part. That's where I wanted to be most interesting. Yeah. So it again creates some sort of balance. And do you know what? This I really don't like. I think I'm going to leave it here. Okay, my friends, that's all for today. Hope you liked today's little live stream. I will see you next week.